2023 has been an absolutely phenomenal year for games, and although there have been a couple of stinkers in the mix, Gollum, for the most part it's been nothing but straight bangers left and right. Even games I haven't got around to playing yet, like Baldur's Gate 3 and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I can still recognize as objectively good and successful games. It was such a good year, in fact, that boiling down my favorites to a simple top 10 list was rather difficult. But in the end, this is what I came up with. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I, Oversoul, share with you my completely subjective list of personal top 10 games of 2023. What's better than Final Fantasy and rhythm games? Well, a Final Fantasy rhythm game, of course. Final Bar Line, as the title would imply, is the final entry in the Final Fantasy rhythm game spin-off series. This title differs from its predecessors, though, in the sense that it feels a bit more like an RPG. You build a cast of characters, and go through the most popular songs of each game in a sort of story mode known as Series Quest. Your characters level up and learn new abilities as you go, and learning the intricacies and nuances of these different abilities is essential for those who want to complete the optional challenge quests on each track. The game features battle music that has you fighting enemies the entire time, traveling music that switches between travel and fighting, and FMS music that plays cutscenes from one of the games in the background. Any track you have unlocked can be played in Music Quest mode, and there's even an option for competitive online multiplayer. Then, when you're ready to really put your skills to the test, try Endless mode that has you going and going until you fail enough quests to lose all your lives. And if you find yourself hankering for some extra music, there are a lot of DLC tracks up for purchase, including music from Final Fantasy XVI. Overall, not the most innovative or standout game this year, but I found it very addicting, and story mode is a feature that I've been wanting in this series for a long time.
I don't know if a dating quiz is the best distraction from the disaster you've made of your life. But hey, what do I know? You're the one in charge here, Jala.
Thirsty Suitors is basically a gender-bent Scott Pilgrim. You play as Maya on a reluctant return home trip to face her past, which includes disappointed parents and scorned exes. The game basically consists of you riding around town on your skateboard, going from point A to point B, doing QuickTime events to show off, and fighting off the thirsty suitors that your well-meaning but tone-deaf grandmother keeps sending. But those particular enemies pale in comparison to the boss battles. When you get into combat, it becomes a turn-based RPG, but instead of normal attacks or magic, you have to use your conversational skills to either flirt with or insult your exes and get the upper hand so that you can do extra damage. If you can manage to get them flustered, not only do you do extra damage, but they often end up stumbling over their own words and damaging themselves. You can also summon friends and family to help you in combat, and it's definitely over the top and entertaining, especially when you summon your mother and she smashes the enemy with an oversized sandal.
Not the chapel! No!
Where this game differs from Scott Pilgrim is that it's not so much about fighting off a bunch of evil exes as it is about reconciling with your past. At the end of each battle, you have the choice of whether or not to bury the hatchet with your ex and remain friends, or re-spark a new relationship. It's creative, it's fun, it's funny, the art style is cool, and there's a lot of respectful culture representation. Mix all this with the ability to make dialogue options that change the narrative, and you have yourself one of the most underrated hybrid games I've ever played. It's free on Game Pass, so give it a look.
Okay, we're all here. What's the emergency?
Jala's back!
So?
So, we're all Jala's exes. I thought everyone would want to know. She's in Timber Hills. And she's not with Jennifer anymore.
Who could have seen that coming?
Although 3D Mario games almost consistently one-up their predecessors, the 2D Mario games often feel very much the same with each iteration, which is exactly why I was completely blown out of the water by this one. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is here to pull the rug out from under you and subvert your expectations at every turn. It's not just the new power-ups, which include a curb-stomping elephant and a bubble that erases you from existence. It's the sheer whimsy, boldness, and innovation that this game brings to the table. At times, you could even argue that it feels fast-paced like a Sonic game. Here I was, expecting to jump on Koopas and Goombas, and although there is a good amount of that, I'm also riding on the backs of wild bison, racing a caterpillar across the scenery, floating my way through obstacle courses, precariously platforming my way through challenge levels that were clearly inspired by those Mario Maker nightmares, taking all kinds of pipes to God knows what or where, and all other manner of wacky nonsense. Very rarely does this game slow down. Plus, the addition of badges gives you a new way to tackle levels by providing extra abilities such as a floating high jump or adding more blocks to the level to fill out gaps. Oh, and surprise! You're not saving Princess Peach this time! She's actually a playable character, along with Luigi, Daisy, several variations of Toads and Yoshis, a Nabbit, and of course, Mario. And this game is totally accessible for the younglings because playing as any of the Yoshis basically makes you invulnerable. The only downside is you can't use power-ups. So, what did Bowser do this time? Oh, he only siphoned enough power from a flower kingdom to basically become a whole-ass castle. Just another Tuesday, you know? Honestly, I don't know what more I can say about this game. It's Mario. If you aren't sold by what you've seen and heard at this point, then you probably aren't playing it. But I'm sure glad I did.
Basim! Avert your eyes! There is nothing we could have done.
As much as I respect a developer's choice to do whatever they want with the IP that they own the rights to, I was among a few of the people that was hoping Assassin's Creed would eventually go back to its roots. Well, with this game, that wish has been granted. Originally intended to be DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Mirage is a short but satisfying experience that takes us back to the days of stealth and parkour, while maintaining some of the quality of life improvements of the newer games. In this game, you play as Basim, who is actually the assassin that gives Eivor their hidden blade in Valhalla. But this story is a prequel. We see the character go from Aladdin-style street thief to a master assassin. Much like the very first game in the franchise, you visit the Assassin's Bureau, get information on your target, and then go around obtaining more information through various methods such as eavesdropping. Then, when it's time to take out your target, the game gives you multiple ways to go about it, a feature I haven't seen since Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, at the time of playing this, I hadn't finished Valhalla yet, so I wasn't aware of Basim's tie-in with Norse mythology, so the end of this game absolutely blew my mind. A true return to form for the franchise. It was the dash of nostalgia I think the franchise needed, and I can't wait to see where they go next.
I will kill you!
Then you know I am your end.
Others will fight. Your uprising will. We did it! The cowards are running!
Foreign object warning. Looks like a defect. Take him in. Is that a weapon?
I don't think so.
I think he's resisting.
Wait, what?
A surprise hit that was shadow dropped on Xbox Game Pass the same day it was announced. Hi-Fi Rush is a sort of action rhythm game / 3D platformer with a comic book art style that reminds me of Into the Spider-Verse. In this game, you play as Chai, a young rock star who has volunteered for Project Armstrong to replace his busted arm with a new shiny cybernetic one. But when something goes terribly wrong during the process, Chai becomes infused with music-based powers, and now the same company that was going to change his life is actively trying to end it, as they consider him a defunct, and we can't have that. On the run, he meets up with Peppermint, and along with a ragtag group of defuncts, the two of them work to take this evil corporation down. The story for the most part is pretty straightforward and follows your typical group of rebels fighting an evil corporation narrative, but where this game really stands out is in the gameplay. Everything, and I do mean everything, from the movement of platforms to the environment around you, to the combat, to the steps you take, is all in sync to the rhythm of the music. The game is designed in such a way that no matter when you press the buttons, you will always be in time with the rhythm. The game wants to keep you in the flow so that you could realistically button mash your way through the whole thing if you wanted to, not ever worrying about hitting the button to the beat. That being said, if you manage to time your button presses correctly, you will do extra damage and be rewarded with other bonuses as well. And if you find yourself struggling to maintain the rhythm, there's a metronome feature you can turn on that basically tells you when you should hit the button. So you can play it like an action game, or you can play it like a rhythm game, or you can do both. No matter your preference, it's completely accessible. One by one, level by level, make your way from point A to point B, staying in rhythm, defeating evil robots, and eventually working your way up to that level's boss. Defeating them in a musical action showdown, and then returning to your hideout to purchase upgrades before moving on to the next one. Fun and addictive gameplay, beautiful visuals, lovable characters, and a rockin' soundtrack featuring the likes of the Black Keys and 9 Inch Nails. Hi-Fi Rush is the indie darling you didn't know you needed in your life.
Got a killer track. But every song's gotta end.
of an interactive cartoon than a game, Goodbye Volcano High is an emotionally devastating story about a group of dinosaurs in a modern-day high school setting coming to terms with the fact that they are all about to die right before they were supposed to graduate, and what that means for what little is left of the rest of their lives. You take on the role of Fang, a non-binary lead singer of a band called Worm Drama. You and your bandmates, the tomboy and the stoner, were all hyped up for Battle of the Bands and excited to be performing, but when news of the meteor hits, priorities start changing, and that becomes difficult for certain characters to come to terms with. The game has a pretty accurate representation of how people would react to a similar situation in real life, with some people going all doom and gloom, some people skeptical of the news, and some people taking it all in stride and making the best of it. Even the posts on this game's version of Twitter are very accurate to real life. Gameplay-wise, all you do is make dialogue options and partake in rhythm game minigames during the music sections. But this is an experience that is definitely more about the narrative than anything else. There are also some pretty cool D&D sessions that one of the characters hosts, but these again are basically boiled down to dialogue options. The game has a lot of respectful representation of LGBTQIA+ culture, and characters often have to navigate around difficult conversations and situations in regards to it.
My parents barely remember to use the right name for me, much less pronouns. Maybe it would be easier if I, presented more mask. But that's not really what I want. Exactly. I feel like half the time my family just thinks I'm confused and they're waiting for me to settle on something normal or whatever. Oh my god, same. Dude, fuck that. We don't owe them normal.
Overall, this game blew me away with its story. I shed a lot of tears playing it, and even though you know what's coming at the ending is still beautiful in a very melancholy way.
Thank you. Our next song is about going home.
Was it worth it?
From the geniuses at Frictional Games comes another entry in the Amnesia franchise, but this one is a little bit different. Taking place during World War II, you play as a character trapped in a bunker with a mutated creature and carnivorous rats. You have to use your critical thinking, resource management, and survival skills to outsmart and outrun the monster and eventually, hopefully, make it out of the bunker alive. The game starts pretty straightforward and linear, but eventually it becomes clear that this game isn't going to hold your hand. In order to escape, there are several items you need, and although you can grab them in any order, the codes that you need to get to them are always procedurally generated, ensuring that you can't brute force your way through a speedrun. The main gimmick here, however, is the lights. There is a generator in the safe room that keeps the lights on if you give it gas, but the generator can run out of gas, and when it does, the lights go out and things get spooky. The giant monster that is constantly stalking and hunting you down is more active when the lights are off. And you do have a flashlight to help you see, but charging it up makes a lot of noise and attracts the monster to your location, so you're better off just keeping the generator running as long as possible. Now, I wasn't sure if I was going to like this game at first because it felt like it was leaning heavily in the style of horror I'm not a fan of, but I'll be damned if this game didn't surprise me. The puzzles make you feel smart and accomplished, the monster is genuinely terrifying and brings a lot of tension, the story is shrouded in mystery with a lot of lore to pick up and read, and the game can be challenging but not unfair. And although this game does give you the option to fight back, it's only possible if you can find the right items that you do have to go out of your way for, including a gun, a lighter to make Molotovs, and more. There are bags you can find to increase your inventory and lanterns where you can save your game, but don't think you're always safe around them. Look, it's not Soma 2, but I'll take it. Frictional Games is a great developer, and I will continue to support them in the future. That's right, not one, but 2 Final Fantasy games on my list this year. And although Final Fantasy XVI is not a rhythm game, it is still a pretty big departure from series tradition, but in a way that I can totally get behind. It's basically Game of Thrones with kaiju fights. In terms of tone, narrative, and atmosphere, the game is very bleak and oppressive with a grim outlook on the future. But in terms of gameplay, it's an over-the-top Devil May Cry style action combat system where you utilize powers from different icons that you've defeated in glorious battle. Meet brothers Clive and Joshua and their childhood friend Jill. During a royal ceremony for Joshua, the family is betrayed by their contentious witch of a mother, and the Empire takes control. Haunted with the loss of his father, betrayal of his mother, and presumed loss of his brother, Clive spends the next several years with nothing but revenge on the mind. That is, until a smarmy British man recruits him to his merry band of ne'er-do-wells, providing him with a new goal and purpose. The game is rather linear, having you return often to the same semi-open maps to explore new areas of them, do side quests, hunt monsters, and progress the story forward. Given that this was by the same group of people at Square Enix that did Final Fantasy XIV, some of the side quests can feel a little MMO-ish, but several of them are worth it, as they can lead to major benefits including new weapons, potion pouch upgrades, a chocobo to ride, and so much more. Others still can lead to some of the most emotional moments with your companions. Now, this may not be my favorite Final Fantasy, but I found the story engaging and the gameplay loop addicting. It may be a hard sell for turn-based traditionalists, but for this OG Final Fantasy fan, it was another beautiful notch in the long-running belt of a series I love.
A lot of it said that I'm a poor host.
What do you mean to do with her?
Do with her? Why, nothing. Her life is her own now. If I wanted to use her, do you think I'd be talking to you? All I want to do is help. Dominance like her, branded like you. Of course, the realm doesn't approve, which is why we live in a cave.
I asked for an equal. And this is what you find.
Sir, perhaps a new hunting ground.
Light the fires. The great hunt begins.
In 2018, Peter Parker swung his way onto our PS4s, and in 2020, Miles Morales swung in right behind him as a Year 1 title on PS5. Now the two of them are back, working together in another web-swinging adventure, Spider-Man 2. Combining the maps, characters, and storylines of the previous two games, Spider-Man 2 sees you switching between Peter and Miles both at your leisure and as the story demands, to face what might be their most dangerous villain yet, Kraven the Hunter. Bored with always winning so easily, Kraven has set his sights on the ultimate hunt, which leads him to New York on account of all the supervillain activity. And to complicate matters further, a chance encounter with an alien symbiote has given Peter a case of OP syndrome, side effects of which may include being a dick to your friends, but looking really cool in the process. Split gameplay obviously comes with a split narrative, and although both Spider-Men are dealing with the same main threats, they each have their own personal inner demons to face as well. Peter dealing with the crushing weight of responsibility, wanting a normal life, feeling like a failure with MJ, and coming to terms with the health conditions of his friend Harry. Meanwhile, Miles is dealing with the stress of balancing school and being a superhero, trying to keep his overprotective mother from worrying too much, and not letting his want for revenge against Martin Lee take him over. Both characters also have several side quests that are exclusive to them as well, such as Peter's science work and Miles helping out his school friends. Some of these types of side quests can get extremely repetitive after a while, but I recommend you stick with it, because some of them have some amazing payoffs that plant seeds for future DLC or even another game. And some quests have some really great down-to-earth emotional moments that serve as a bit of a reprieve from all the fast-paced action. For the most part, this game is a perfect example if it ain't broke, don't fix it, just make it better instead. With the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback of the DualSense controller, swinging through New York and knocking the ever-loving piss out of street thugs has never felt so fluid and satisfying before. And with the addition of the web wings, traversing from any part of the map to the next is so fun that I rarely ever used fast travel. And with the addition of the web line, a whole new world of options is opened up for people who like to play stealthy in the scripted encounters. I guess what I'm saying is, this is the closest thing we'll ever get to another Batman Arkham game, and I'm okay with that. Also, the MJ sections are vastly improved compared to the first game. And even if the combat did start to make my hand cramp near the end of the game, especially during certain boss battles, I can forgive it because the amount of unseen surprises and fun Easter eggs that this game threw at me, especially in the third act, had me grinning from ear to ear.
Gonna have to flag that business transaction. Hey, Spider-Man! Hate to interrupt the business meeting, but... Wait! No, I don't! My favorite! Take the web! Hurry! Here we go!
It's not a lake. It's an ocean. It's not a loop. It's a spiral. Oversoul stared blankly at the screen, not knowing what to expect. He had played Alan Wake and Control, and wondered where the story could possibly be going from here. Little did he know the experience he was in for. The game took place 13 years after the original. Alan was still stuck in the dark place. Enter new character, Saga Anderson, FBI agent. Another character in the story, or someone wrapped up in the nonsense? Only time would tell. Casey Anderson, Mr. Door, the old gods of Asgard, Shawn Ashmore. Something very weird was going on here. Oversoul was not surprised to see the Federal Bureau of Control here as well. After all, he had played their game and he was well aware of altered world events and para-utilitarians. Oversoul noticed that whereas the first Alan Wake felt more like a work of Stephen King, the sequel gave off more David Lynchian vibes, with notable references to things like Twin Peaks. It was less of an action-adventure game with horror elements and more of a full-on survival horror with some obvious Resident Evil inspirations. Oversoul was exhilarated to see that the old gods of Asgard made a return in this game. He recalled that they are portrayed by the real-life band Poets of the Fall. Once again, their musical performance was not only one of the best parts of the game, but for Oversoul, it was one of the most memorable moments of any game this year. Oversoul couldn't decide if he liked playing as Saga or Alan more. They were similar but different, with one side focused more on combat and puzzles, and the other side on exploration and atmosphere. He found himself unnerved by the taunting words of shadows, and wasted many a battery on false threats. Through it all, though, he found the narrative engaging and the visuals breathtaking, even if it was hard to see at times. Once again, Oversoul was impressed by Remedy's ability to mix video game animation with live-action cutscenes, and he found the talk show sections with Mr. Door to be some of the most entertaining parts of the game. Oversoul had heard that many people didn't like the ending of this game, but he did. He understood what it meant, and he knew that there was more to come, as Remedy had already announced 2 sequels and some DLC. As a fan of horror and the Remedy-connected universe, Oversoul already knew he was going to like this game, but he never imagined it would have ended up becoming his game of the year. It was a very close competition, but with one of the best soundtracks and narratives this year, Alan Wake 2 beat out Spider-Man 2 just barely by the skin of its teeth. And there you have it! That was my personal top 10 games of 2023, out of the ones I've played anyway. If you participated in the contest, the winners will be announced on New Year's Day, so stay tuned for that. And if you're wondering why I did the commentary and visual editing the way I did for Alan Wake 2, well, it's a meta-reference to the game itself. Those who have played it will understand. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and share your personal favorite games of 2023 with me. And let me know what your game of the year was as well. Until next time, I have been Oversoul. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in the Let's Plays. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!